We are following breaking news from downtown Jacksonville, the federal courthouse.
The verdict handed down. Congresswoman Corrine Brown, guilty. Her attorney vowing to fight on.
You should look out for some motions that we will be filing for a new trial.
We broke the story of her indictment last summer. Tonight, from her supporters to her critics, we're on your side. This is First Coast News at 11.
70 years old and facing the possibility of spending the rest of her life in prison. Former Congresswoman Corrine Brown spent more than 3 decades of her life as a public servant. Now, she's a convicted felon. Tonight, she's at home awaiting sentencing.
A 12-member jury found Brown guilty of 18 of 22 federal charges today, including fraud and corruption. But her attorney says the fight isn't over. And tonight, we have team coverage for you of what's next for the former Congresswoman, reaction from the community, and we're going back to where this all started. We begin with Stephen Dial, who is live tonight outside of the federal courthouse. Stephen?
Heather, when Congresswoman Corrine Brown left the courthouse, she was silent, stone-faced, not saying anything. She released a statement later in the day saying that she will fight to remain and maintain her reputation. Despite being found guilty tonight, she says she's innocent. Congresswoman, do you have anything to say to your supporters? Silent and stoic after being found guilty on 18 corruption and fraud charges. A sharp contrast from the conversation I had with Corrine Brown days before the trial started.
On my tombstone, it will not say felon guilty.
You're not guilty.
Not guilty. Not guilty.
Brown spent more than 2 decades on Capitol Hill. She was the type of politician that you either loved or hated. After the verdict, her supporters were stunned.
Until it happens, nobody is really prepared for it. It feels like a death in your family.
Her longtime pastor still having faith.
You have any reaction? I still see God in it.
After 8 days of testimony, a dismissed juror, and 4 days of deliberations, the jury found Brown guilty of conspiracy, mail-in wire fraud, and filing false tax returns. The jury believing the accusations lodged at Brown that she used a bogus charity to steal money for her personal gain.
No one's life is a snapshot. Our lives are films, and you have to look at each and every frame. And Corrine Brown is not going to be defined by what happened here today. This is the first phase of the process, and this isn't the end. You don't do all the things that she's done and accomplish all that she's accomplished without being incredibly strong. This isn't the first trial that she's had to deal with in her life, and it's not going to be the last one.
After Brown was found guilty, the Department of Justice released a blistering statement saying, in part, they say that former Congresswoman Corrine Brown violated the public's trust and the integrity of her position. Continuing our team coverage, we want to send thanks to my colleague, Julia Jade. She's where it all started at Bono's Barbecue. Corrine Brown was served her papers. Julia.
That's right. This community hit hard by a verdict that many were watching very closely. Here in the Northside area is where something started in this case, at this restaurant where back in January of 2016, Brown was holding a political strategy session where federal agents served her with a subpoena that started a case that would end with today's guilty verdict.
It's a sad day.
In a restaurant with roots dating back farther than Corrine Brown's long political career,
She did a lot for the community, and she was well loved too.
several gathered at the Bono's Barbecue on Norwood Avenue to watch the verdict come in.
Just like when Dr. King got killed, that moment of time that he got assassinated, it really hurt it.
Jelly Jackson says he was here eating the day Brown was served her indictment.
But you know, when you look at life, a lot of this will come and go.
Like most we talked to, he's hoping people will remember the good.
Said she was going to do some things, she got it done.
She helped build the courthouse, the funds for the courthouse down there, and that's
And while it's still the talk around the table,
everybody has secrets. Everybody has things they regret, which they could do over. But, you know, I don't think it's fair that we just throw her under the bus.
Some choose to remember the politician for her past.
The Jacksonville was asking that anybody who was homeless kind of go away from the downtown area. But she kind of stood up for them and said, look, this is what we want to do. So I was fairly young when that began happening. So that sticks with me, and it'll never be erased by anything that she's going through right now.
Today, Brown's attorney saying that her life should be judged as a film and not short snapshots, which he says this case right now is. That's something that was echoed by her supporters and many here in the community who say they will continue to surround her regardless of her guilt or innocence. Reporting from the north side, Julia Janae, First Coast News.
And Representative Al Lawson is reacting to the verdict tonight. He replaced Corrine Brown in District 5. He says, quote, "My thoughts and prayers are with Brown, her family, and all those affected. I believe Jacksonville is a better place because of her 3 decades of public service."
And we got this statement today from Republican Congressman Ron DeSantis, who says by leveraging her office for financial gain, Corrine Brown breached the public trust and illustrated why we need term limits for members of Congress. And our coverage of the Corrine Brown verdict does not stop here. Right now on firstcoastnews.com, you can find a breakdown of all the charges and more reaction. Well, tonight, firefighters are still battling that massive Okefenokee fire, the West Mims fire that has been burning now for more than 1 month.
We know nearly 600 firefighters are putting in 16-hour days trying to get that fire under control. Tonight, fire officials say they managed to improve containment lines. It's now 15% contained. We're about to take a look at video right there of our tour behind the fire lines today. You can see those flames coming close to a road in some areas. The big message from firefighters today: get ready now. Do not wait until it's too late.
Really want them to kind of be in that proactive, move early, get things prepared, have the understanding that we don't want to just give them 5 minutes to prepare for an evacuation.
Make sure your roof is free of any flammable debris like pine straw or leaf litter, anything that might be accumulated on your roof or gutters.
So the Florida Forest Service says a big misconception is that spraying down your roof will help make it fireproof. But in most cases, the roof dries out quickly, so it doesn't make a difference.
Well, 4 wildfires that popped up in Nassau County are tonight now under control. This is new video of the fire. We saw firefighters going door to door handing out safety pamphlets today. Several homes were in danger, and US 17 was shut down at one point. Firefighters, though, were able to contain the flames.
Duval County extended its burn ban today. That means all open fires like campfires and bonfires are banned. Conditions in Duval County are so dry, Superintendent Dr. Nikolai Vitti canceled all outdoor activities today, including recess, since dense smoke continues to linger. Mayor Curry says the fireworks for the Jumbo Shrimp game tomorrow are still on.
And we are expecting to see more smoke tomorrow. Let's check in now with meteorologist Tim Deegan on exactly where we can expect it. Tim?
Thanks, Heather and Anthony. And the winds continue to shift, so the places where it's going to be densest, thickest will shift as well. Certainly still over southern Charlton with the fire, but then shifting a little farther to the north. So out of northern St. John's and Clay and Duval, at least as far as the thickest smoke, and into western Nassau, and later in the day beginning to spread into southwestern Camden. The rest of us may still smell it. There'll still be a hazy feel, but overall the smoke shifting north. The winds, though, which were occasionally gusting up to 20 today, will become even stronger tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be just as dry late in the day, and thus the red flag warnings, which we saw for some counties on Thursday, will expand during the day on Friday. What about moisture? Beginning to increase. We'll see more clouds. Won't be as hot tomorrow. Here they come Saturday morning. At least we'll see some scattered showers and thunderstorms begin to offer some relief, and some might even hit the swamp. What about the best weather of the next 7 days? I think it's going to pan out just perfectly for Mom on Sunday.
All right, thank you, Tim. A veteran JSO officer is on administrative leave tonight after hitting and killing a pedestrian last night. This is the second deadly crash involving JSO just in the past 9 days. Police say that Officer T.L. James was driving without his emergency lights on when 63-year-old Blaine Land ran out in front of his car and a JFRD vehicle. They say Officer James could not avoid him. An investigation is now underway.
A Navy vet who survived Desert Storm is killed while driving a taxi.
I want to know who did it, and I can't rest until I do.
Tonight, the new leads police just got in the cold case of Crandall Reed.
Plus, road rage in the Walmart parking lot. Why the driver says it was all just a misunderstanding.
3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 4, 3.
This just in out of Alachua County, a 23-year-old cold case has just been solved. The sheriff's office has arrested Francis Palazzi for the murder of Jamal McGowan. McGowan was killed at a New Year's Eve party back in 1994. The 24-year-old and his friends were playing music when a man approached him, asked him to turn the music down, then shot him. Deputies now believe that man was 77-year-old Palazzi. He is charged tonight with first-degree murder.
Now to a cold case that has yet to be solved, the case of Crandall Reed. He served our country for 20 years and survived Desert Storm. But on November 16th of 2007, he was shot to death inside his taxi cab. So continuing her cold case series tonight, Katie Jeffries has more for us.
He was an honest man trying to make an honest living. That's what Terry Reed had to say about her husband. But he was shot to death inside of his taxi cab in November of 2007. A cold-blooded killing. And Terry has been searching for answers for nearly 10 years.
There ain't no more out there like him. He was the only gentleman I ever knew.
Time has done little to numb the pain for Terry Reed. Before driving a cab, her husband Jack served in the U.S. Navy for 20 years, survived Desert Storm, but lost his life in a spray of bullets near the Boy Scouts of America building off Edgewood Avenue.
And I think they said he shot 21 bullets, one hitting him.
Somehow, he was able to drive away, but crashed into this convenience store parking lot and died.
I don't understand why. Why him? Because you want to rob somebody because you're too lazy to go to work?
Terry Reed has her husband's urn topped with a brownie her granddaughter said Jack should have since it was his favorite snack. She has a bear made from one of his favorite sweatshirts. But what she doesn't have is an arrest or conviction in her husband's murder.
You're taking this life off of this earth. That's somebody's son, father, brother, uncle, grandfather, and you don't care. You do it so cold-blooded.
JSO's cold case unit is working this case.
That case is active. We're looking at it right now.
And says it does have some new leads.
Now, we're following up on some tips and leads in that particular case. I can't talk to the details of that particular case either because it's an active one, but I feel promised about it.
I want to know who did it, and I can't rest until I do. You know, I have to have peace too.
So we will keep you updated if there are any developments in this case. If you know anything tonight, you're asked to call Crime Stoppers or the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. That number to Crime Stoppers, 866-845-TIPS. Remember, your call can remain anonymous.
And now to some pretty incredible video. A truck accelerates, slams right into another car. This happened in a Walmart parking lot, and police say that was no accident. So officers say this all started as a case of road rage near a school. Minutes later, the drivers confronted each other in the parking lot. The driver who was arrested claims that his foot slipped on the pedal. Clearwater police shared this video because they want to remind drivers road rage is not worth it.
Wow. Well, that's it for us here on First Coast News at 11.
Thank you for joining us, and our sports special, Making the Cut, starts right now.
Now, a First Coast News special sports presentation. This is First Coast News coverage of the players.
The opening round of the Players Championship is in the books. Hello and welcome to this Thursday night edition of our Players Special. I'm Chris Porter. Let's get out to Ponte Vedra to see what went down on this hot, steamy day at the stadium course. Sergio Garcia, the defending Masters champion, with the shot of the day on the historic 17th hole, and whoop, there it is. They call that a hole-in-one. He finished the day tied for 66 at 1 over. Paired with Adam Scott, who entering 17 had the lead by 1 shot. His crumbling began here with 2 double bogeys in a row. He went from the lead to tied for 17th at 2 under. Your co-leader, William McGirt, eagle on 16. He was your leader for most of the day. In fact, he had 2 eagles on the back 9, and he shares the lead heading into tomorrow with Mackenzie Hughes.
A good name. He's obviously played well.
Yeah, you just kind of see the shot and hit the shot, and see the putt and hit the putt. I think that's probably the 3rd or 4th time, maybe even 5th time that I've eagled 11.
To go bogey free around this place, very difficult to do, obviously, and at the start of the day, I wouldn't have expected a round like that, but I knew my game was trending.
I think picking out the trajectory you wanted the ball coming into the green was the important part today with that wind, and if you were able to do that, you would get rewarded with the shot. If not, you're just going to have to struggle for a par.
All in all, obviously finishing under par is not, it was a good finish. I just kind of hung in there. It was, definitely played tougher, later in the day.
I feel like I turned a 75 or a 76 into a 73, so it wasn't all bad. But yeah, I didn't hit enough fairways, didn't hit enough greens, felt like I was scrambling all day.
It's not easy, and because all the hype that you get on after the hole-in-one, but unfortunately for Scotty, he just pushed it just a touch. Yeah, I think they're calling me, so if you guys let me go.
So here's a look at that ever-changing leaderboard at the end of the first round. And heading into tomorrow, William McGirt and Mackenzie Hughes are tied atop that leaderboard at 5 under. The defending champ, Jason Day, is tied for 19th at 2 under. Jordan Spieth is tied for 66 at 1 shot over. We know the players' goals far beyond just golf. Alyssa Lang is taking us to the heart of the game with how one golfer gave back to the Jacksonville community before the tourney even teed off.
A lot of guys used Wednesday's final practice round to get in last-minute preparations and rest before Thursday's first round. Jordan Spieth had a full day in front of him. Good. Right after finishing up here at the course, he headed across the street to a special kids golf clinic held by the Tesori Family Foundation. And it was started by Paul and Michelle Tesori. Paul, a former caddy on the PGA Tour for Webb Simpson, but now the Tesori family is dedicating their lives to something else.
My little guy here, Isaiah, happens to have a little extra copy of the 21st chromosome, and the kids that we have today, good boy. The kids that we have today all have just varying kinds of special needs, and for us to be able to give back, it's really more about us and the enjoyment we get than it is about anything else.
Jordan Spieth is no stranger to the special needs community.
My family, my little sister has special needs, and our foundation supports it.
For him, it was no question to come out here and spend an afternoon with these young golfers.
It's a no-brainer. I had a lot of fun. These kids, it's just amazing. The smile, the happiness that they show, you don't see on an everyday basis from everyone else, and it's pretty cool.
At TPC Sawgrass, Alyssa Lang, First Coast Sports.
The Players' Championship does feature golf's strongest field, but tonight we're showcasing those men and women who make the tournament happen. You're watching the First Coast Sports Players' Championship Special. We know it takes a lot of people to make the Players' Championship what it is day to day, and our Curtis Dvorak caught up with some of the most important people who make it happen, the volunteers.
Hey folks, we're out here at the Players Tournament. Obviously it's Thursday and everyone's coming out to watch the golfers. They're ready to start the tournament, but this tournament cannot happen without 2,100 volunteers that go around the course and make sure they staff all the areas that we got. And the head volunteer, the chairman of all the volunteers, Kevin Inglis, joining me now. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Curtis.
You yourself a volunteer as well.
Yep,
right?
10 years. Yeah,
and how do you get the red coat? The red coats are the top volunteers. How do you get the red coat?
Oh, I got a little lucky, I think. About 10 years ago, my friend Robert Davis asked me to come out, and I started out in volunteer shuttles. We have a committee that gets all 2,100 volunteers over to the course. I never saw one play of golf, but I fell in a
driving back
and forth for a whole week. Fell in love with it, and been out here ever since.
And the volunteers, as you see, we're in the volunteer village out here. They're feeding them in
Darlene's Diner. Yep, one of our long-term volunteers, Darlene.
They get checked in here, they get their assignment, and they head out to their station. So many different areas. I mean, the ushers, you know, keeping people quiet.
Yeah, that's our marshals.
Marshals.
Yep.
Sign bearers.
That's right.
Scores, all that.
Yeah, we have over 50 committees that are organized to put on this tournament and really make it happen every year. We have 5 vice chairmen that lead those committees. My team, I couldn't do it without my vice chairman, and that's the leadership team for the players. Lots of returning volunteers, and we have actually 37 states represented this year and 7 countries, 2 from Malaysia and 1 from Peru. So it's a global volunteer base out here at the Players.
It's amazing. Obviously a global tournament too, and again, folks, this tournament is the biggest tournament on the PGA Tour schedule, biggest purse, biggest amount of charity, and it can't happen without you guys. So appreciate you guys being out here. Be nice to the volunteers out there when they're telling you to be quiet. They volunteered their time to come out here so you could have a great time at the Players. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Back to you.
Pete Dye was the architect behind the stadium course at TPC Sawgrass, but his wife Alice was the woman who envisioned the iconic 17. Keitha Nelson with the First Lady of Golf Architecture.
Yes, she still plays. Alice Dye, 90 years young. Her form intact, showing off a bit in the backyard of her Delray Beach home.
You have a while to go to get 90.
Known for her sense of humor, golfing skills as an amateur champion, and a leading figure in the game of golf.
I was the first woman who was taken into the American Society of Golf Course Architects. I went into that because I feel like if you're in a position to open it for other women, you have a responsibility to do that.
Among Dye's lengthy list of accomplishments, she's a mother of 2, and for nearly 70 years she's been married to and has worked side by side with famed golf course architect Pete Dye.
When he wanted to start into the building golf courses, he asked me if I'd be his partner. So I felt very comfortable. I felt I was qualified.
Pete would turn to Alice for guidance countless times, but there's one particular project, a specific piece of advice that created the most famous hole in all of golf, located in Ponte Vedra.
Pete and I stayed up there in a motel while he was building the course, and I would come out almost every afternoon and look at things. But one morning he said, "You got to come out." And this morning he said, "I'm in a mess out here."
She recalls the stumped look on his face, tasked with creating a course unlike any other experienced in the game.
Where I was going to put the 17th green is just a great big hole, and I don't have any place to put it. Come out and see if you can think of something. So I was standing at the edge of this huge cavern of a hole, and I said, "You know, why don't you just put the 17th green back where it was and fill this hole with water?" So that's what he did.
Alice's eye created the iconic island green at 17 at TPC Sawgrass. And these huge spectator mounds, now acclaimed at TPC, weren't supposed to be quite as high as they turned out.
Pete had all this bad dirt that he had to do something with. So his mounds, instead of being 7 or 8 feet, became 30 and 40 feet.
The land itself, full of trees, flat and swampy, proved to be a challenge. The outlying areas were rough with an overwhelming amount of grass and weeds, so they found a cheap fix, a herd of goats. One in particular just couldn't be controlled, Prunes.
That's Judy Beeman, the commissioner's wife, and Prunes is trying to get in the front door and she's trying to get out.
The goats lasted a year, but through all the stress and strife, there's a feeling in the end that Dye holds dear, experienced on opening day.
Gary Pate, 8 under par in this inaugural Tournament Players Championship.
When the course came to life.
It was the first time I'd seen it with tee markers and flags in the green, and it was wonderful. It was a wonderful feeling.